we begin in earnest, there's a bit of an announcement that needs to be made regarding the future of this show and this channel. We're going to spend probably the next 5 to 10 minutes on this announcement. So Chuck and I are going to give two versions of it. The first is going to be a sort of TLDR version, which contains only the necessary information for anybody who watches that just wants the bullet points and then wants to move on with the rest of the show using the timestamps. The second version is going to be a longer, more fully transparent telling of the same information, mostly so we can explain ourselves a little bit more. So here's the abridged version. Essentially, another podcast has stolen our name, and because of this, we're going to be changing the name of our show and this channel. Other than the name, the content of the show is going to stay exactly the same. Sometime during this next week that's coming up, you're going to see a new channel in your subscriptions, but that's just us. For people that aren't subscribed currently and watch this show, I'm going to recommend that you either subscribe or you go back and look in your watch history, or else you're probably not going to be able to find us because we're not quite ready to reveal our new name. So that's the vital information. Feel free to move on with the rest of the show if you choose. Otherwise, Chuck's going to take it from here and kind of explain how we found ourselves in this situation.
Yeah. So it starts back, in October of 2021 when, we first were talking about doing this, and we were noodling on a name, and I proposed, what about Mezzanine? And you were like, well, what about From the Mezzanine? Because there was some other shows called just Mezzanine, and there was a bunch of songs called Mezzanine and things like that. And it's a word, but we decided to, run with the name that we've had, for our whole lifetime of the show. And we were recently rolling out, a audio only version of the show. So I was readying, my knowledge for that process. I was figuring out which service are we going to use to host us, which platforms do we want to be on, how do you even fucking do that? We're hobbyists. This isn't something I'm doing full time. I don't have some coterie of, Gen Z social media experts, behind the scenes producing everything for me. This is just something we do in our spare time. We watch shit and then we convene once a week. And so we were going to work within our workflow, keep it reasonable. I had found a quick and easy way to convert this, live stream version of the show into an audio only podcast equivalent. And then as I was, basking in my ingenuity at figuring it all out, I got, Matt messaged me because he discovered that this other show was in existence, and we're going to work very hard to not be vindictive cunts about it. Because, we're not going to say who this individual is, anything identifying about them. But, needless to say, they took the name and added a unique modifier of their own at the end. If you're a talented enough Google sleuth, you'll be able to know who this other show is. But we are not going to dox them, and we don't want anyone to go bug them. Because from what we can tell, they are just really, really young and don't realize how shitty they're being. Because we did attempt to communicate with them. We did try to put our best foot forward and be like, hey, heads up, maybe you don't know about us. But I don't really find the reply from them that they just didn't know that we were existing here on YouTube in this space, or that we had a Facebook page or anything like that. They just kind of, felt like, well, we're just going to be on every other platform. We're going to crush you with the SEO, in search engines. Because when you Google From the Mezzanine, now you find them instead of us. And, that's really the part of the problem here. There's, now there's ambiguity about who is using the name and what you're clicking on when you're looking for it. And now people can't find us unless you just go on YouTube and look for us. But that's a pretty limited ecosystem compared to the whole wide internet that you could get from being on Amazon or, Apple Music, for example. And in our communications with them, they made it very clear that they felt that it was, no big deal. In fact, we aren't really a podcast just because they don't think we are, which is an argument that I don't think they could win, but I just don't have the fucking energy to try to win. At this point in my life, I work, full time. I have a family. Matt obviously has the same situation too, and we also like to do things for fun. And going on a great crusade to try and claim what we believe is rightfully ours, well, righteous, and certainly something I personally would have been totally down for when I was like 20, 3 versus 33, and that's kind of where we were at. It just kind of became apparent that we weren't going to be able to reach them, and we were not going to get beyond this in a reasonable way, and we weren't willing to, take the pound of flesh it would take to win it. We barely spend any money on this endeavor. It's basically just a tax write-off for me anyway. Hello, Uncle Sam. And we're not making money on this, but if it would ever be something that we would do or they would do, both of us trying to coexist would not be tenable, and it would not work. And we're heading towards some kind of self-destructive confrontation, no matter how you slice it. And because we're more mature, we're more willing to do what they would not do, which is, grow, move beyond, everything we had built, and try and find something, not just a silver lining, but just like, what is the next stage of what we're doing here? Because let's be honest, the early years, the early episodes from the Mezzanine, a little rough, not only in our delivery, like we were still like, I hadn't been on a camera in like 10 years before we, you started doing this. I don't know if you ever had any experience being in a live, recording environment like this. So yeah, it took a little bit for us to get our footing. And I really like, where the show is at now. I don't want it to die just because of, some, I'm just going to say it, some like really vocal fried out theater kid. But, there's more to life than all of this. So sometime in the future, very near future, within like the next week, a Mandela effect will occur, like Matt's alluded to. And suddenly it won't be us, as you know us, but it will be us as we, are going forward. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm not as torqued off as I was when this was first discovered. It was a very rude birthday present, let me tell you. I was not happy with it. And it took a lot of thinking and, in conversation with you. I know that Angie really just, wants us to tell this individual to fuck off, and that was an option. But I think there's more positivity in this other decision versus the destruction that would surely follow if we went to the mattresses. But without, belaboring the point, I think that kind of covers it. Was there anything I forgot to mention?
No, I don't think so. I guess the only other thing would be, this isn't something we've fully decided on yet, but we might be also changing the day that we upload our videos.
Yeah.
So look out for that too. We're probably going to change to sometime in the early work week would be my guess, if we did that. But that's something that we're still kind of noodling on. But otherwise, yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. So yeah, just to reiterate, our name will be changing, our channel name will be changing, and you're going to see that sometime here in the next week.
So like and subscribe now, hit that bell, all that jazz that annoying YouTuber people say, because then at the very least you could see familiar faces appearing in your feeds and recommendeds. You'll get a notification letting you know that the new show has uploaded. And yeah, we'll probably be making a separate individual video out of this clip so it can be more easily, put into the hands of everybody. But that is what's going on. Suddenly, you'll wake up and From the Mezzanine will be gone off of YouTube, but something else will be growing and expanding on every platform because, fuck all of these bitches. Basically, when we, ran into this problem, we had a glimmer of hope that maybe if we reached out, communicated reasonably, that this person would understand that what they were doing was wrong, and maybe reconsider, given, the amount of time we had put in, compared to them, would have counted for something. That You know, that maybe a little bit of human decency would have counted for something. You know, it's just that this person obviously isn't mature enough, or at least ethical enough, to understand what they're doing is wrong. You know, and it's not like we can, you know, really expect, you know, people to do the right thing all the time. But this was an opportunity for this person to do that, and they chose not to. And that's something they're going to have to live with, regardless of whatever they do with the name From the Mezzanine in the future. But if they do get a little bit of success, maybe they, you know, wind up, you know, at the top of the iTunes charts or something like that. This video, at least this channel, it's like, we're not going to memory hole this shit. It's all going to live forever. Like, the record will stand. The ledger will be selfish. And you can bet your bottom dollar that we'll be the first ones to call them out if the time is right. And they'll just have to live with that. You know, because we all kind of cultivate our own little perception of ourselves when we do this thing. And that is why it is so important to do the right thing. To be transparent, to be upfront, to be honest, to be ethical, and to not be a complete fucking cunt. But there it is. That's life. But consider, you know, this just not like it's a farewell, I guess. But in the end, it's not forever, you know, a farewell forever. We'll be back, same time, basically, same channel, basically. New coat of paint. You know, I'm obviously still bitter, trying to be the better person, and slipping a little bit, because I still just can't believe that an adult human being could, you know, have information such as this put in front of them, and to basically just spit in the face of the person trying to put their best foot forward. I'm not just saying this because I wanted to believe that it was true. If the shoe were on the other foot for us, we would have not hesitated to change our name if we had found out that someone else had gotten to it before us and were politely asking us to walk away from it. I would have done that in a heart, and I know for a fact Matt would have been at peace with that too. And, you know, we can sleep at night, but someday it might be a little hard to deal with your actions if this is just the first of many unethical steps along the way in a career that, you know, ultimately may prove to be, you know, ill-gotten, or at least paid for with daddy's credit card. I'll stop slagging on him. I'll move on. This is just my one last little fuck you. I hope that you grow as a human being in the future. All that said, it's been, you know, wonderful. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really proud of what we did. But consider the mezzanine closed.